I've been looking for ways to speed up my workflow as a composer and producer for the past 10 years, and...
Hey, buddy, it's been over a year now. I think people want an update. I think it's time for Touchscreen 2.0. Hi, my name is Brian, and a little over a year ago, actually, a little more than a little over a year ago, I released my first YouTube video talking about my workflow and how I found a great way to make it faster and more streamlined using an app called Lemur. And while Lemur is a fantastic app, it kind of seems that Line, the company that made Lemur, has kind of neglected it and are doing just the bare minimum to keep the website active and the app in the App Store, but not much more than that. And while you can still use it, and I still see people selling new templates for Lemur online, me personally, I can't use the editor on my 2019 Mac Pro running Catalina. I need to use my MacBook Pro running Mojave for that. And I've been seeing people in the comments telling me that they're having similar issues. Either they can't see the editor at all, or they can see it but can't interact with it. And with Big Sur lurking in the darkness, waiting to devour everything that we love about macOS, I couldn't shake the feeling that it might be the time to find a more future-proof solution to get a custom touchscreen controller. And so I went searching. And not before long, I stumbled upon a thread in the VI Control forum talking about the new software for custom touchscreen controllers. And so I am very pleased to introduce you to OpenStage Control. OpenStage Control is not your traditional editor app kind of approach. Actually, OpenStage Control doesn't have an app at all, not for your mobile devices anyways. No, the way that OpenStage Control works is you have the server/editor, which runs on your computer, be it Windows, Mac, or even Linux, yes, Linux, and then you have the client, which you would probably refer to as the remote, which connects to the server on your local network and runs on your web browser on your iPhone, Galaxy, Android phone, iPad, Android tablet, Surface Go, Surface Pro, anything that has a touchscreen and a web browser, you can run it on, which is fantastic. The server that is running on your computer is what actually sends MIDI data to your DAW, and the remote is just a visual copy of the layout that you have on your server, just one that you can actually touch. And since you can run the remote on, let me get this right, Firefox version 75 and above, or any Chrome or Chromium-based browser out there, you don't have to rely on iOS or Android apps anymore. In fact, you're not confined to these platforms any longer.
Whoa.
You can run this on a Raspberry Pi or a Windows Mini PC and then hook them up to a 15, 24, 75-inch touchscreen panel, put it in Chrome with full screen on, and enjoy endless screen real estate. Speaking of which, OpenStage Control lets you do anything that Lemur lets you, and more. But it is appropriately named OpenStage Control, in which you can do pretty much whatever you want, but it comes at a cost. See, while other apps have the most commonly used features laid out and labeled for you, OpenStage Control uses the scripting approach. Wait, don't click away just yet. You can still keep things super simple and have a decent looking, fully functioning touchscreen controller and not fuss around with any line of code. However, I was able to figure out most things on my own quite easily, and with the help of the very active forum at the OpenStage Control website, where Gene, the developer, personally answered every thread and every question that I had, and often even looks at users' session files and tell them what's wrong with their code and how to fix it. And so if I, someone who's terrified of coding, was able to figure it out, so could you. And also, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know, and I'll have a cheat sheet that you can refer to when building your own template, and you're probably going to ask for my template file, so I'm going to give it to you for free anyways. But without further ado, let's start building. Like all of my other videos, I'm a Mac user, so I'm going to show you the installation steps on macOS. However, I will have installation guides for Windows in the description, and once we have everything installed, it's pretty much the same. So, on Mac, let's go to the App Store and install Xcode. It's free, and it's going to make the next few steps a lot easier. So after you install Xcode, which is going to take a while, we're going to go to our web browser and search for Python. Also free. Install the latest version of Python to your computer, as easy as just downloading the installer, following the installation steps. and then it's done. After you've done installing Python, we're going to install rtmidi, which basically lets OpenStage Control look at your MIDI connections. So let's do that. Okay, this is going to get a little bit trickier, so bear with me. In order to install rtmidi, we need to install a few things before that. So the first thing that you want to do is open up your applications, go to Utilities, and open up Terminal. Once you have terminal open up, we want to put this line in. I'll have everything in the description below so you don't have to copy it manually. You can just copy and paste. Once that's done, we need to install pip. So we're going to use this line and hit enter. Once that's done, we have pip install. So pip is basically a package installer that would allow us to install rtmidi. So next we want to make sure that we have the latest version of pip. So we do that by putting in this line, hitting enter. Give it a sec. Yep, latest version, sounds good. And now that we have that, let's install rtmidi. So we're going to put in this line again, everything in the description. Now we have rtmidi installed. Now that we have all of this out of the way, it's time to actually go ahead and download and install OpenStage Control. So let's go ahead and go to this website. Again, link in the description. And this is the latest version of OpenStage Control. Find the one that is relevant to you. In our case, Mac OS. Download it to wherever you want. It's a zip file containing just the application. Copy it to your applications, and congratulations, you have OpenStage Control, and we're basically ready to start building our template. Almost. There's a few things that we have to do in the settings, so let's do that first. So let's go ahead and actually launch OpenStage Control. And this is what it looks like when you first load it up. The first thing that we want to do is go to our MIDI field and copy this from the description and paste it here, and then go to our port and type in 5000. Next, we can go to this little menu button and click on List MIDI Devices. If you install rtmidi correctly, you should see your MIDI inputs and your MIDI outputs listed right here. So this would be a good time to go to your audio MIDI setup and change your IC drivers or add new ones for OSC, or if you have old ones from back in your Lemur days and you want to either rename them or not rename them, this would be a great time to do this. If this is your first time making a touchscreen controller, so what you do is you go to your applications, go to Utilities, and Audio MIDI Setup. If you don't see, let me close out of this. If you don't see your MIDI Studio, go to Window and then Show MIDI. It will be written as Show MIDI, not Hide. And then you go to your IC drivers, double click, and then go to your ports and add an IC driver, give it a name, click apply, and you're done. So after you're done changing or adding IC drivers, you want to go ahead and list MIDI devices again. And as you'll see, the numbers are probably going to change. So take a note of the MIDI device that you want to use. So in my case, my input is number 8. That's IC driver OSC. And then for my output is going to be the same, right? So 8 and 8. So we're going to go to the MIDI field and going to type OSC : followed by 8, 8 and space. So what we basically did right now is created a name identifier, in our case OSC. You can change this name to whatever you want, but this is the name that OpenStage Control is going to use to communicate with your MIDI ports. In my case, number 8, which is IC driver OSC. The last thing that you want to do is create an instance name. This would probably going to be blank, so just type in whatever you want. In my case, OpenStage Control, and that's it. You're actually done, and you're ready to build your own template. Okay, so let's start the server by pushing the play button, and then pressing the menu button, and then going Session, New Session. Let me just get rid of myself so you can see the whole screen. Now that I have my session open, I'd like to first add a container to act as my main screen. So let's right-click, Add Widget, Container, Panel. Next, we're going to give it some properties. So first, we'll give it a name. Then let's open the geometry panel. So the way that I like to approach the geometry of every widget or element in OpenStage Control is, instead of giving a whole number as my dimension or location, I like to use percentage. That way, no matter where we opened our controller we created, it's going to fill the entire screen and retain the same ratio between widgets. Since this widget is our slate, if you will, then we want to set the position or our left and top parameters as 0% and 0%, making them stick to the top left corner of any screen. Then for size, we will type 100% and 100% to fill up the entire screen. Next, let's give our workspace a background color. I think black is a good place to start, so let's open up the style area and set the background color to black. You can also input exact color numbers in case you have multiple items that you want to have the exact same color, something that you couldn't do in Lemur. Okay, let's go ahead and create our first button. Let's right-click on the screen and then Add Widget, Basics, Button. First, let's give the button an ID. Gotta keep things organized, right? And then you see that the button changed its label to our ID. Don't worry about it now. We're going to set the button's label in a later step. This is just an internal ID, which is important once your template becomes really big or becomes really complex. Now, for sizing and positioning the button, I first like to add %sign for all 4 parameters, and then click the button's bottom right and top left corner. And as you can see, once I did that, the parameters automatically changed to the right percentages. Now we can resize and reposition the button as we like by dragging. To change the button's look, we're going to go again to the style area and then change the parameters however we see fit. I'm not going to go over every parameter, just change things around and see what happens. It's actually a lot of fun. Now, you see that CSS parameter? So that is where you can get really complicated with designing your button or any widget, really. If you want to have an icon alongside your text or an image instead of text, this is where you would do it. It does get pretty complicated, and I'll have more information in my cheat sheet that I'm going to include in the description below to help you customize everything that you need, but for the time being, let's just use the CSS feature to make rounded corners for our button. So I'm going to insert this line of code, which you can copy from the cheat sheet that you have in the description, and now we have beautiful rounded corners to our button. And you can have them even more rounded by increasing the number of pixels. So yeah, go nuts. Okay, let's open the button area and change the button label, and change the mode from toggle to either push or tap. And the difference is push will send 1 value when you click the button and then a 0 value when you let go, while tap will send just the 1 value every time that you click the button. So just have that information and use those modes as you see fit. Finally, let's open up the OSC panel and let's have the button actually do something. So for address, we'll put in /control since we want to send a CC message, and then per args is the actual MIDI CC info. So let's type in this command, while the first number is the MIDI channel and the second number is the MIDI CC. So if I want MIDI channel 2 and MIDI CC 25, that will look something like this. Lastly, we need to send the command somewhere, right? So remember when we gave our MIDI port a name in the first step? So we're going to go to target and write down MIDI:OSC, where OSC is the name that we gave our MIDI port. That's it. We have a fully functioning button. So freaking cool. Okay, so now we actually want to save our progress. So just for the very first time that you're starting a new project and you're building your template, you need to create a new project for that. So let's go ahead and hit the little menu item and then session and export, and then save it to wherever you want on your computer. The next time that you open OpenStage Control, you can automatically load your template by going to Load in the main screen and choose your file. Now, every time that you start OpenStage Control and start your server, you will see your session load automatically. Okay, let's start tying everything together. How do we get our template onto a tablet? So remember that I said that there's no remote app, so instead we're using a web browser. So for iOS, I think Safari is kind of out of the question just because it has a big address bar at the top with navigation buttons, and it's taking like a big chunk of the screen, and nobody wants that on a touchscreen controller. So instead, I found a fantastic app called Full Screen Browser, and it's free. I'll have the link in the description, and it's the full version. There's no in-app purchases or ads or anything like that. But the best thing about it is that the address bar is super tiny and it's at the bottom of the screen, so you barely notice it. For Android, I don't have an Android tablet to test it out, but I did see a lot of information of people saying that you can use Google Chrome in full screen mode on Android, so that might be the solution for you. If you're on Windows, you can actually just drag the editor out to an external touchscreen monitors, and those cost around $350 for a well-known brand like Asus, or you can get cheaper ones for less than that, but then you get a 15-inch touchscreen and you're producing like a mouse. But for Android and iOS, let's go ahead and launch our web browser of choice and then type in the second line of address. Not the one that starts with 127, but the other one, and you should see your fancy template with your fancy button looking all fancy and stuff. And I mean, you're basically done. So let's go ahead and back to the editor and create our second button. Right-click our first button and choose copy, or you can just hit Command-C. But for pasting, we're going to right-click anywhere on the screen and choose Paste ID +1. Now, nothing happens, don't freak out, it's just because it's pasted right on top of the first button. So let's go ahead and drag it to a different location and change some properties, color, size, whatever you want. Just make sure to also change the ID to the relevant function of the button. Again, gotta keep this template organized because it's gonna get huge and it's gonna get messy if you don't. Also, don't forget to give it a different MIDI CC value. The rest is honestly up to you. Change the title color, change the button color, change the behavior of the button to your heart's content. Just have fun with it. Now, to see the changes represented on our iPad, just hit Command-S to save, and it will refresh automatically onto your iPad. Yes, it's not as comfortable as seeing the changes in real time like on Lemur, but considering everything that you're gaining, it's actually not a big deal, and it's definitely worth it. What exactly are you gaining, you ask? Well, first of all, you're future-proofing yourself from what seems to be the inevitable demise of Lemur with the introduction of macOS Big Sur. Secondly, you're liberating yourself from costly apps. Metagrid and Lemur, those apps cost around $35, and OpenStage Control is completely free, at least at the moment. But even if they started charging for that app, I really think it's worth it. And the reason is because of my third point that you're gaining, which is OpenStage Control has a ton of features that are just ideal for touchscreen controllers. So let me show you, let's check out my template. Okay, so first of all, we get image support, which is something that I've been dying to get onto my template, and now with OpenStage Control, it's super easy to do so. So as you can see, mine is pretty conservative with just a few icons on some of the buttons, but I do have my logo up here, which, you know, I just love. And I've seen people go nuts with their button labeling, like check this guy out, just went all out, and you can get as creative as you want, which is, I mean, it's very important when you're making your own custom touchscreen control. We also get amazing menus. Okay, check this out. On my main window, I have my quantize buttons, but what happens if I'm on my faders page and I want to change a quantize value? So I have this awesome circular menu that has all of my quantized values. And once I choose the one that I want, I can let go and it jumps back to my main window and actually selects the quantized value. Now, this is by my own choosing. You can have it not jump back to the main window and just choose the value that you wanted out of the menu. But what I love is that I configured these buttons and this menu to be connected. So if I choose the quantized value on my buttons, it reflects on the menu and vice versa, which is just so freaking awesome. I also have this button that actually toggles between different window configuration in Cubase. But what's cool is that I configured each of the values to have a different color, and once I actually let go and choose one of them, it changes the color of the button depending on which item I selected. How cool is that? And I'm barely scratching the surface of what is possible with this software. There are so many things that you can do. There are audio visualizers, knobs, encoders, sliders, patch bay containers. You can actually have multiple OpenStage Control servers running on different machines controlling each other. And there are just so many things that I haven't even looked at yet, just because you can do so much with just the basics. Which leads me to my final point of this very long video.
This is a complex piece of software with tons of features and customizability, so I am willing to forgive it for not being as simple or as streamlined as other controller-making apps out there. With that being said, I really do believe this is an app worth giving a chance to, especially if you're as passionate as I am about making your own touchscreen controller. However, I highly doubt that. But it did give you enough information to get yourself started, and honestly, what you really want to do is just to find a quick way to get an action going in your DAW, and there's no better way of doing that than with a button, and that's why that is 99% of my template. So with all of the information that I gave you today, plus everything in the description below, you'll have all of the tools to create a pretty awesome looking, fully functioning touchscreen controller. As far as setup in Logic, Cubase, Ableton, any other DAW, it's basically the same steps as Lemur minus the Lemur daemon hassle, so we actually saved a step. If this is the first time you're making a touchscreen controller, just go to this video at this timestamp and just map the buttons that you currently have to your relevant DAW. And if you don't feel like doing any of that right now, you can just download the template that I shared in the link in the description below, and you can start things from there and start changing things, or just use that as a reference for building your own custom touchscreen control. So if you're like, hey, I don't know how he did that, you can just load up my template for a minute, check out the codes, copy them, paste them, adjust them the way that you like. Yeah, this is how I kind of got started downloading templates that other people built and figured out things myself. And of course, if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or in the OpenStage Control forum, and I am sure that you'll find your answers there. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you're pumped as I am about this new generation of touchscreen controllers. I think that this amazing piece of software is an invaluable tool for any producer, composer, singer-songwriter out there, and I highly encourage you to try and use it. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Share your thoughts, concerns, ideas, share your templates. That would be awesome. I would love to see what you guys came up with using this amazing piece of software. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe because that is the currency of the 21st century. And of course, stay creative, stay awesome. I'll see you in the next one.